Yo, what's up guys, it's me Jake here, and today I'm going to be talking about what is more important in a manga. It's art or it's story. Now these two things are two major things that come with manga that people really do talk about a lot, where it can come from art, like Berserk, or story, like Hunter x Hunter, because the art for Hunter x Hunter isn't amazing. But if you look at some of the art for Berserk, you can obviously tell it's quite amazing just by showing you some art. You guys can tell it's super detailed and everything about Berserk's art is amazing. Or like, maybe you can even say Yu Yu Hakusho, which is made by the same mangaka of Hunter x Hunter, but this is before his back issues induced. Actually started, might be, but basically, what is more important? Now these series can either have a mix of amazing art, amazing story, amazing art, terrible story, or amazing story, terrible art. Both bad manga, both bad art and story, both amazing art and story. I already said both amazing art and story first, but you get what I mean. It can vary very much, and even every arc in these stories can vary of how good they're drawn and how good the story is told. Like I said, Berserk's art has been increasingly getting better, with the story kind of declining, not too much, but it's not at that golden age arc level. So it's kind of like a mix of what should you try, because not all mangas have amazing art. Like I said earlier, Hunter x Hunter, at some points Demon Slayer doesn't have amazing art. Every manga has panels that aren't amazing. Demon Slayer is a culprit of this many of times, but I'm not roasting the art, because when Demon Slayer's art is on point, it is really on point. Now the thing about art and story is, the story is what drags along everything. It's what drags the characters, the plot, everything together. But the art is really what is shown to you. It's what's present to you, which you have to see the actions of. And if the art is hard to follow, then you won't be able to enjoy the story as much as you would like. So this kind of needs a good amount of mixing, because if you're watching or reading a battle shonen and it's choreographed pretty badly in the manga, and it's a really good story, but the action sequences are all over the place, you will probably not like it as much as if the art and choreographing for these sequences was good, right? So thinking about this is kind of an interesting kind of thing to think about, because Hunter x Hunter's art is very meh and very bad at many of times. Of course it has its panels where it's amazing, but the thing about this is he does really bring out an amazing story in this series. Like, Hunter x Hunter's story is one of the best stories out there, probably. But the thing about it is, sometimes the art is just so bad, and it's so hard to follow that. So it's kind of a hard mix. If you have really bad art, it's going to be hard to bring in an amazing story and have people follow it. That's why more people enjoy the Hunter x Hunter anime over the manga. And that is why I feel like a lot of people enjoy Demon Slayer's anime over the manga as well, because these stories are pretty good, but the art for the manga isn't as good as their stories. Now, I did say in my couple videos ago, I think it was like 2 videos ago, I believe, the overrated or not, I did say that the story for Demon Slayer is pretty generic, and I do agree with this. But it's not a bad story. Just because it's generic does not mean the story is bad. So just thinking of these arts, if they were amazing, how much better these stories would be and how much more it would amplify. Because if these stories had better art, their sales would probably be even better, and that's kind of crazy to think about, because Demon Slayer sales are insane recently. They're some of the best sales ever, and for like a span of 2 years, it's already outsold. I think One Piece, it outsold for both years ever since the anime. It's very nuts to think that this might have gotten even more sales if this just stayed consistent with its artwork. But the stories is what's very important, because like I said earlier, it's what gels every single thing that's consistent in the story together. It helps gel the characters, the side characters, the villains. It helps tie everything together into a conclusion. So that's what's the main important part. But even at points, art is very important, because you need sometimes to have some more emphasis than other things, and other things to hit harder, because if it's an emotional moment, then you need it to be more emphasized, to try to bring that emotion out more. Because just for a story, it's not going to be super easy just to make a story that exaggerates its art to a point where it brings out a lot of emotion. Now, this is very much shown in One Piece, and during the Water 7 and Enies Lobby arc, this is an amazing kind of point where you can see the emphasis on this art, on the emphasis on the story, and how it can actually just try to bring out emotion out of you multiple times. So, I'm not going to spoil it, but, like, if you know the moments, you know the moments. Like, there's, like, basically, like, 3 or 4 moments in Water 7 and Enies Lobby that is pretty obvious what I'm probably talking about. But they emphasize these things to a point where it drags the emotion out of you. Now, you might not cry, but you're definitely going to feel sad at these points, or happy, or angry. There's just that one thing that this art just brings out in a person. That story cannot always bring out. A story can't always bring out the best emotions, while art can help exaggerate and emphasize things to help those emotions be more well known. And that is something that I think is a very interesting plot between both these things, is that yes, the good art needs a good story, but this good story needs a good art to make it good. That's why I like series that are like One Punch Man or like something like that, where they might have a different mangaka than the artist, but it's for a good reason. These artists are really good. Like, Yusuke Murata is probably one of the best artists out there. Like, he can make insane looking manga, and just because they're two different people does not take away from the story. It's because of this, using someone else for the story while using someone else for the art is really good in ways, because it can help both sides of the spectrum get what they need. It can help that you need the art to emphasize the story, and it can help the story need to emphasize the art very well. Now, I might just be thinking of other series too, like, sometimes art is not always needed to emphasize things, but this is at very, very rare moments, and that's not many of times you'll see in manga, but there's also many of times where the art drags stuff out of you that the story just never could. And that is something that is very not talked about, is how important good artwork is in these mangas to draw out emotion. Because if you look at, like, any manga, you're gonna have to think about artwork to get that emotion out of you, most likely. Or, like, you're gonna need to think about the story and the art combined to actually feel an emotion towards the story, which is something that I really think is cool to think about, and I really am interested in. So yeah, I really think that the story needs good art and the art needs a good story, because if you have really good art and a very bad story, yes, it can emphasize moments, but it can't bring out the best of all characters. Let's just put it in this perspective. Imagine if One Piece didn't have amazing art, but it had the same story. Imagine if the rough sketches that Oda makes, even though they still look pretty good, were what his art looked like. It would not be the same kind of feeling for One Piece. It would be a completely different feeling, because because of him not going as hard as the art with the story, that it would not bring out as much. Because one thing about One Piece that I really do enjoy, and I'm probably just gonna be praising the hell out of One Piece in this video, sorry about this, but it's just like the perfect mix of amazing art, amazing story. So is Berserk. But basically, one thing about One Piece is that these duo of art and story mesh together so well that it actually emphasizes it so perfectly, and they mesh together. While other series can't really get to that point, like Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter does not have that emphasis on both sides. Hunter x Hunter is an amazing story, but its art is not always there, which can always just drag down a series from right there, right then. Which is something that I really don't like to say, because next week I have a video that's like anime versus manga, and it's basically going to be saying that not all series in manga format can be helped because of the art. And sometimes they need that animation for anime to actually emphasize it and actually get it to that next level. Because Hunter x Hunter's manga is really good when you look at the story, but there's some points where you're just like, why? Like, there's some points where there's literally stick figures on the panels. Now, I know you might be saying like, not Oda,
Yoshihiro Togashi is sick. You can't roast him. I know, I'm not trying to roast him because he's sick. I'm not roasting him at all. I'm just saying, using him as an example. Now, I love Togashi. His works are amazing. I'm not going to bash Togashi just because of this. But I'm just going to be using him as an example because the Hunter x Hunter's art isn't amazing. But the story, like I said, is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. But just because it's an amazing story doesn't mean the art is up to that par. Now, it's a very unique art style for Hunter x Hunter, too, because even when he has those really, really nice drawn panels, it's very different. And it's like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's very meticulous and it's very well drawn. But when he's not in that, it's not really that great. So yeah, you need that mix. And if you don't, it's going to be quite hard to emphasize both sides of the spectrum. So yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I hope I see you guys next time. Peace!